From our free daily newsletter, the latest from podnews.net with supporting cast. Oprah Winfrey's The Oprah Show today features guests that are out of this world, or at least they were. After their extraordinary history-making trip round the moon, Oprah has an in-depth conversation with the crew of Artemis 2. The show was acquired by Amazon's Wondery last month. Spotify drives 1.5 times more podcast consumption than YouTube, according to new data from Podstock. However, part of that is due to discovery tools and reach for new audiences. New listeners lower average time spent per stream. The data, based on thousands of different podcast episodes, highlights the increasingly multi-platform world of podcasting. In the UK, podcasting reaches more 18 to 34-year-olds than broadcast TV, says research from Sounds Profitable, written up by Ben Robbins of Sound Insights. The data on the UK's podcast consumers arrives a week before the podcast show in London. Ben Robbins and Tom Webster will cover more of the data on May the 20th at 10 in the morning. Alitu and the podcast host have been acquired by AI software developer Rocketable. The acquisition occurred a couple of months ago. It's emerged and is now complete. Colin Gray leaves the company but is not sure at this stage what comes next. He'll be at the podcast show in London. iHeartMedia released its Q1 26 financial report. Here's Bob Pittman.
Within the Digital Audio Group, our podcast revenue momentum continues and was $147 million for the quarter, up 26.9% compared to prior year of $116 million, above our guidance of up low 20s. And approximately 50% of our podcasting revenue was generated by our local sales force. Our podcasting EBITDA margins remained accretive to our total company EBITDA margins, which we achieved by applying rigorous financial discipline, and we believe we have the most profitable podcasting business in the United States. In fact, we're the number one podcast publisher as measured by both Podtrac and Triton, and we're also the podcasting industry's number one podcast sales network. And one more thing to note, a major key to our success in building our podcast business has been our broadcast radio assets. If Netflix is in essence TV on demand, then podcasting is radio on demand. And as the number one radio company in America, that gives us a great advantage. And if you're looking for further validation of the power of our broadcast radio assets and our radio personalities, out of all the video podcasts that appear on Netflix, in the first quarter, one podcast got over 40% of all their podcast views, according to Samba TV. And that's our own Breakfast Club with Charlemagne. Why? Because they talk about it on the radio every morning. One more way we're quantitatively proving the value of broadcast radio to advertisers and marketers.
And we should know, because Bob Pittman didn't, that iHeart does say that it's the number one podcast network according to Triton, but Triton is owned by iHeart. Also in the call, Mike McGuinness, the Chief Financial Officer, told us something exciting about the iHeart app.
There's a new thing called video podcast, which appear to be incremental to audio podcast. It's not the same usage case. It's another time in which people are doing it, and now we're able to get the video podcast in there. So it opens up a new revenue stream for this business called podcasting. And Netflix, I think, is the first example of that. But are there others that would like to carry our video podcasting? And by the way, the iHeartRadio app, we are now carrying, beginning to roll it out this month, beginning to carry video versions of audio podcasts too. And you're seeing the same with Spotify and Apple, and certainly YouTube, has been doing it. So I think that's the big concept here, is that you found yet another market that we can play in.
Well, we reported that the iHeart app was to add video in early January, so we look forward to learning more. The Podcast Academy is set to celebrate 2 international awards at the podcast show in London. Goalhanger's The Rest is History will receive the International Governors Award, while the International Impact Awards goes to Wisecrack from Tenderfoot TV and iHeart Podcasts. The show is set in the UK. Sony Digital Imaging will also be exhibiting at the podcast show for the first time. They'll be showing off all of Sony's broadcast ecosystem, reflecting podcasting's switch to video. The Nomono sound capsule, we reviewed a pre-release version in 2023, is about to have a big system upgrade that brings stability, performance and security improvements. Creator X has announced Office Hours, a free monthly forum on how to make your podcast more valuable to new and existing brands. The first event is this Friday at 5 p.m. Eastern. The Podcast Professionals Association has announced its inaugural board of directors. The non-profit's new board are Tracy DeForge, Jen Trepek, Alison Booker, David Hoffman and Steve Stewart. It's part of a new phase of growth for the organisation. Scott Galloway now has his own TV channel. The Prof G channel is on the Roku channel and Prime Video and brings together his most popular podcasts. The channel is being produced by Swerve TV. Little Dot Studios, which partners with Acast at the end of last year, has opened its in-house video podcast studio in its London headquarters. It'll initially be used for History Hit and provides a dedicated space for future formats and productions. And podcasting has too many awards and no way to stop them, writes Frank Racioppi in Forbes. His article starts with a recap of our story from January of a different type of podcast awards. And in podcast news with Airwave, in Australia, it's federal budget week. Is this going to be a fair dinkum budget? Will we have to pay more for a schooner of beer? The Australian Prime Minister, Anthony Albanese, joined Jeremy and Norman for an exclusive chat on The Talking. OTT's available wherever you get your podcast. He probably didn't answer those two questions. And Design This Day skips the theory and instead talks with people who are quietly building the world you're about to live in. The engineer behind the world's largest aircraft, the designer bringing human-centered thinking to autonomous weapons systems, the founder growing bionic hands for humans and robots, the actual people doing the work. Speak with futurist Devin Liddell, who has spent 20 years helping Boeing, Nike, Google and Amazon figure out what comes next. And this podcast is sponsored by Supporting Cast. Your brand, your site, your rules. Supporting Cast is the invisible engine that powers your premium experience. Integrate a seamless subscription flow directly into your own website. Stop being a content provider for someone else's app. Be the destination. There's a link to Supporting Cast in our show notes today, and that's the latest from our newsletter. To read all the stories and subscribe for free, we're at podnews.net.